All right, now may we have our next contestant, please? Now, we're not going to identify this contestant panel because to identify him would be to tip off his secret. We will call him simply Dr. X. Now, Doctor, if you will whisper your secret to me, we will show it at the same time to the folks out there. Now, wait a minute. There is even more.
In the 1930s, Philo T. Farnsworth was the first man to ever produce an image of a real human, his wife, Penn Farnsworth, onto a television screen. This event was located in a lab in San Francisco. Philo T. Farnsworth had put grueling hours of work into creating television ever since he encountered the idea at age 14. However, his original image of television was unable to stay afloat, as his work was swallowed up by giant companies towering over him. His exploration into television and his persistence to not give up shaped what we call modern television. His legacy lives on as it changed the world and also stopped it from changing. In the 1920s, radio dominated the market in entertainment, as people were astonished as they could hear from far away. But people didn't just want to hear from far away, they wanted to see from far away. The concept was not new, as a device known as mechanical television existed. Mechanical television was a combination of rapid spinning, clunky discs, and motors producing crude and low-quality images. In addition, mechanical television's movement was often very choppy, as the spinning discs were never really fast enough to produce fluid motion, and the screen was very small. However, mechanical television had the first in television, as it was the first to be commercially available and the first to be mass-produced. While mechanical television seemed like a success to its inventor, John Logie Baird, a young Idaho farm boy by the name of Philo T. Farnsworth, knew that mechanical television would be a dying business. In 1918, a young Philo T. Farnsworth was moving to a new house in Provo, Utah. He was about 11 to 12 years old when he moved. He had been moving away from his birthplace in Indian Creek, Idaho, but what Philo discovered at his new home changed his life. Philo had discovered electricity, but not only did he discover electricity, but he also discovered science magazines. Tons and tons of science magazines. Science magazines fueled the young Philo T. Farnsworth's mind as he worked on projects like converting his family's handheld appliances into electricity-powered ones. With his inventing spirit, Philo T. Farnsworth, at age 13, came up with the first idea of electronic television. Out of all the places in the world, Philo T. Farnsworth discovered it in a potato field. A young 13-year-old Philo T. Farnsworth was plowing a potato field one day when he had an extraordinary thought. Philo realized that electrons could be lined up line by line, forming an image, much like the potato field was plowed line by line. And that's when Philo started sketching his amazing idea. He knew his friends would not understand him, but one day he tried the idea of television on his chemistry teacher, Justin Tolman. Although Justin Tolman did not understand Philo's idea at all, he agreed to help tutor him. However, Philo didn't get anywhere until he graduated high school. After high school, Farnsworth went into Brigham Young University. There, Farnsworth began planning for television. However, he had to drop out in 1924 as his father passed. Philo had to support the family. He worked on railroads and even worked on selling radios. After supporting the family for more than a year, Farnsworth got back to inventing television. In 1926, a 90-year-old Philo T. Farnsworth was able to convince two investors to give him $6,000, their entire life savings, for the development of electronic television. In that same year, Philo had married his wife, Pem. With his investments, he was able to move on to San Francisco and build the lab. Philo was also able to set up a small team, one of them being his brother-in-law, Cliff Gardner, and another, his wife, Pem. After a little while in their tiny lab, things were starting to take shape, as television instruments were being constructed, all of it being made from scratch. Their labor and effort proved to be very effective, because in 1927, a small line was produced on television. It was about the size of a postage stamp, but it was an amazing breakthrough. His investors were impressed, but they wanted to see money out of it, so Philo went back to work. As a joke, Farnsworth drew a $sign on a piece of paper and put it up against his camera to show to his investors. One of them is quoted for saying, "The damn thing works." However, television was not ready to show a real human yet, as the camera he had almost no sensitivity to light, which means high-power lights were used. The lights were so harsh and bright that a human could not endure it. While television was succeeding with Farnsworth, a large company known as RCA noticed the power of television. David Sarnoff, the president of the company, hired a large team of experts, one of them being Vladimir Zworykin, an experienced pioneer in television. And in 1930, RCA offered to buy the patents of Farnsworth's television. Farnsworth declined, which led to some time in court. RCA tried to make it look like Vladimir Zworykin had invented electronic television first. But the court didn't think RCA was inventor of electronic television, as Farnsworth's high school teacher was able to back him up. Farnsworth had won the case. However, his victory was short-celebrated, as World War II came in, which stopped the development of television. After the war, Philo's patents had expired, and RCA took over. It was the end for Philo. Philo's short years in developing television impacted entertainment greatly, as television was soon a standard of entertainment. Philo's grueling hours and persistence brought forth something that engineers thought was impossible. Although RCA took over Farnsworth, his fingerprints are all over modern screens. Without Farnsworth, we simply wouldn't be able to see the first moon landing in 1969. We wouldn't be able to see the terrible 9/11 disaster. We wouldn't be able to see the Challenger disaster that questioned and reformed modern space safety. We wouldn't have been exposed to the horrors of slavery in the film Roots in 1977. We wouldn't be able to see our news every day, and we wouldn't be able to see our president speak. Farnsworth never got known by the world, but he's still a legend, as his work remains in every screen we see.